Anything up to that point we missed?
Oh.
Great. So from that point in time, everyone knows we have Air Force assets in there with, I'll make a declare call, and we'll get that Air Force asset unknown. They'll come back with different conflicting information based on what that track would be, and then they kind of work their way down to the fact that it is a Syrian aircraft. I will, at that point in time, based on the learning that we had, crews in the last 10 days especially, knowing that as these things get more and more dynamic, kind of the best thing you can do is go down and make that VID happen. So just leaving our block there in the 20 to 24 block, go ahead and descend down. That's kind of the first call, and where, if anyone's seen the tapes, that's where the call sign switch is going to happen, because I'll say Freedom 3-3 is descending to make this VID on voice alpha, and Veter will throw it out, Freedom who, and then it's Veter and Mobs descending to make the ID happen, and then it's going on from there. Mob, Jojo, Veter, and Scotty P's doing his job up there, being high cover.
I don't think there was a call sign on that call. And I think the other kind of key point there Mob alluded to is that as soon as we found this questionable aircraft that we knew could be a factor, one of the first things that Mob did was recognize that we need to start task shedding. You know, as anybody out there flying knows, you can have 3 radios, but you're not going to talk on 3 radios and listen on 3 radios all at the same time. So something that we definitely learned as an air wing and really kind of practiced there was, hey, how are we going to split these tasks up? And so very quickly it became the comm plan from that point forward is basically Mob's up TAC C2, and me and him are up the same aux. All 4 of us are up the same J voice. And then I'm working with the JTAC. Veter, you're still at the JTAC freak, right? As well as Scotty P. So we basically started to say we split our pry freak, and now we're starting to work different pry plans to kind of accomplish everything that needs to be done for the ROE, as well as effectively kind of protect them, but also a lot of coordination, very, very comm intensive.
Yeah, absolutely. Jojo hit on it. I will switch off the pry freak, and this is where everyone knows you need a great wingman out there, and that's what he was for us that day. He will talk to the guys on the ground and kind of get his arms around the situation, find out exactly where that forward line of troops is, anchor that, and kind of use our onboard combat systems as well as voice comm to me to make sure I understood how close that this Syrian aircraft was to coalition forces. Jojo mentioned it in the beginning. The whole mission out there that day was to go defeat ISIS, annihilate ISIS. That's our mission. So as quickly as we can get back to that mission, that was our goal that day, and get back to that primary mission of close air support. It won't transpire that way, as everyone knows at that point in time. But again, at any point in time this would have de-escalated, then that would have been just fine with us, and that we can go back and get mission success, continuing to drop bombs on ISIS. Proceed to the south, execute the VID, looking at the combat systems that Jojo's putting out for me with good transmit designate, if everyone's familiar. And he's putting out good comm for us as far as how far away this track is to our friendly forces. At that point in time, the aircraft, again, will be ID'd. I will make a visual identification of a single Su-22 fitter, put that on the radio for TAC C2, and now I'm just kind of monitoring his position and comparing that to the rules of engagement, which we won't get into the very specifics right now, just for operational security. He'll proceed north overhead, and at the same point in time, we'll task shed down to TAC C2 to put out numerous guard calls on every radio they possibly have. So Jojo mentioned 3 radios. Now we got guard talking on top of that as well. So just tough to get a lot of information through, which goes back to that training piece of, hey, you might have to do this semi-calm out. We need people to be in the correct place at the correct time. I can't be driving you around like yellow gear on aux. And that's what happened to that day, at least. Everyone was in the correct place at the correct time to make this happen. Assessing that nose position, we're putting out these guard calls as well, assessing his position of friendly forces. At this point in time, great wingman as well, as he's proceeding closer to friendly forces. Hey man, we need to execute a headbutt, which at this point in time is just going to be passing overhead closely to the aircraft and putting out flares. So again, that second warning on top of the guard calls, and we'll execute 3 of those as well. Like I said, at any point in time, if this aircraft would head south and work his way out of the situation, that would be fine with us, and we can go back to execute and CAS. After the third one, this is probably where, if anyone's seen the tape, it kind of picks up with the cut. After that third one, he will proceed to release ordnance, execute a dive and release ordnance in proximity of friendly forces. 2 weapons will come off the aircraft. He'll execute a climb at that point in time, and I'll swing the master arm, fire 1 by AIM-9X. It goes for all the aviators in the room. It'll come off the rails quick, like normally, which I'll get to here in a second to make sure that we practice shooting air-to-air missiles. It'll come off like it had before in a previous missile shoot that I'd executed as a JO, and kind of go in there, and I lose the smoke trail, and I have no idea kind of what happened to the missile at that point in time. So as we've been taught, try something different, and then just select the AIM-120 at that point in time. AIM-120 will do its job for all the guys also as aviators there. It takes a long time for the cheek station, so make sure you think about that with trigger discipline and holding it down. Long time for that weapon to come off, and it will explode, impact the backside of the aircraft, and the aircraft will pitch right and down, and the pilot will jump out and left in his ejection seat. To my previous point, myself and McD, wherever he is, were on a missile shoot when we were JOs, and I was back in BFA 31. Both shot a drone off of the coast of Oceania, and both watched the weapons impact, and both continued straight into the cloud of debris, almost hitting it. So we realized that was a bad idea, and both executed a quick break turn away from that. Fast forward all these years later, didn't forget that, see the impact of that weapon, and execute a quick turn to the left, and kind of watch the ejection seat go down the right-hand side of my canopy. I'll kind of go on the egress, but Veter at that point in time will descend out of that high holding stack and starts jumping into that wingman roll, close wingman. He's called something a loose deuce, which I think is a 1960s-70s, so I'll have to get tightened up on that later. But Veter, if you could explain the loose deuce to everyone.
It's all you.
Specifically, please.
Specifically.